We're excited to talk to you today about both IMAGINiT Clarity Cloud in general, but in particular our new, what we call the hybrid option for IMAGINiT Clarity Cloud. We will cover in today's presentation both a little bit about just a reminder of what is Clarity and Clarity Cloud, how they operate today, and what do we mean by a hybrid? What is this? And then we'll take questions. We'll also look at a little bit of a demonstration as well. So as a reminder, the Clarity product, which you may have heard of, has been around for, 12 years now. It is a platform for providing automation and intelligence, mostly to Revit-based projects. We do have AutoCAD kind of capabilities, but most of our customers are Revit-centric kind of companies who also do some AutoCAD-oriented work. And the platform has grown over those 12 years into a wide variety of areas. But this is mostly, this set of diagrams is mostly around our on-premise product, which is the 12-year-old version of the product. We have a much younger IMAGINiT Clarity Cloud product, which is, the smaller version today. It was really focused on just the automation and model health side of the platform, but providing it to you in a way where we manage the server up in the cloud. So that's ultimately less work for your IT people to manage than an on-premise system. So talking about what do we do for automation, what do we do with this platform, the whole idea going back 12 years is that we looked at what people in a BIM coordination, VDC coordination kind of role were doing week in and week out, and there was a lot of coordination of models, a lot of batch printing of progress sets or those kinds of things, and we felt that anytime that once it's been defined how a particular task should be done on a project, if it's a manual and repetitive task, especially one related to Revit or CAD, there's no reason why a robot couldn't be more effective at doing that automatically or in the middle of the night, rather than tying up a person's machine and interrupting a person to do that kind of work. So if that work might have taken 20 minutes or 30 minutes to make a PDF and deliver it to the right place at the end and that kind of thing, if we can do that for you in the background, then we feel like we've given you back those 20 minutes or 30 minutes. And whether it's 5 or 20 or 30 minutes on the task, those bits of time add up and they give people back time to spend on more valuable tasks. So, and we did start tracking around 2014 about the hours that have been saved through this process, and it's adding up to a lot of hours. A few years after we first introduced it, model health, Revit model health, became a relatively big topic, something where we wanted to support people whose job it was to make sure that people were using best practices and not anti-best practices in how they built models inside of Revit. Because ultimately, if you don't follow good practices, Revit will slow down, Revit could become corrupted. We've seen all sorts of things happen over the past 12 years. And Clarity is all about tracking different metrics about your Revit models and giving you visibility to see both what the current state of them are, how they've changed over time, and giving you insight into how people are using Revit without you needing to be in the Revit model yourself. So you have that visibility of what's going on and insight as to how people are working without being in there. So that's what our model health side of things is all about. So those are the two areas that we're supporting within the Clarity Cloud product today, which is really what we're here to talk about. I'm going to talk one more moment about Clarity on-premise, just to illustrate the difference. So the Clarity on-premise system is something where you provide a Windows server that Windows server can connect up and look at projects that are in local network folders, Revit servers, BIM 360, and ACC, and ProjectWise, and the work that needs to get done gets sent off to machines that are on your own network, that have Revit or AutoCAD installed on them, and the work gets done in the background. So whether it's on demand or in the middle of the night, it's taking care of that those manual repetitive tasks for you. Clarity Cloud, on the other hand, is something where we manage everything in the cloud in terms of your web interface for setting up the projects, for setting up the tasks, all of those kinds of things. We work today with Clarity Cloud only on BIM 360 and ACC because that's really where people are and what people are using, and the process of connecting in and trying to get at your network folder things probably a little bit insecure these days. So we're focused with Clarity Cloud on the BIM 360 and ACC side of the integration in terms of projects. And then for the work that needs to be done, what the pure Clarity Cloud does is when there's work that needs to be done on demand or on a schedule, it gets shipped over to Autodesk Platform Services, APS, also used to be known as Forge, and they have what's called design automation servers, where IMAGINiT has published their code and it can execute on these hundreds or thousands of machines that are available in the cloud to do work. And so there's no machines to manage. It all just gets sent off to the cloud and comes back when it's done. So that's the fundamental difference of how these two products, the Clarity On-Premise and the Clarity Cloud, have operated. And just to be clear, people always ask us, well, when's the on-premise version going away? We feel like it's not, at least not on any kind of reasonable time horizon. There's just too many things that both are still being used, especially in large companies that are on-premise resources that we have to be able to deliver to. And I think it's just something where the on-premise side is going to continue to keep going. We are investing more these days in our Clarity Cloud side to try to get it up to parity and do everything that we can with it, but we don't see the Clarity on-premise side going away anytime soon. Now, Clarity Cloud's been out for a few years now, and really most of our customers these days are still on-premise customers. And from our perspective, when we talk to people who are kind of interested in the concept of moving to Clarity Cloud, there have been a couple obstacles to doing so. Some technical and some business. So from a technical perspective, it's great that Autodesk has hundreds or thousands of these virtual machines running in their cloud that are able to execute and do Revit jobs and those kinds of things. But the magic of sort of serverless cloud stuff is that behind that magic, there's still just servers. And the ones that Autodesk are providing right now, they're 32 gigabytes of RAM, which at least for our bigger customers, that's a lot smaller than their typical production workstations. And so we've been kind of hesitant to recommend Clarity Cloud in these kinds of cases where you have very large models that you wouldn't want to be opening with a 32 gigabyte RAM workstation. So that kind of made us hold back as well as customers. The other thing from a performance perspective is that there's no graphics card. So are certain tasks that do benefit from a graphics card, like PDF export or like AutoCAD or Revit to AutoCAD sort of export, those really benefit from a graphics card. And so without that graphics card, that process goes a lot slower, probably 5 or 6 times slower than what people might be used to on their own desktop where you might have a graphics card. The other thing that I'll mention is that in our years of doing on-premise Clarity, we've become accustomed to having access to auxiliary software, whether that was PDF drivers like Acrobat or that kind of thing, or whether it was Navisworks exporters. You can't export Navisworks unless you have the Navisworks export software installed. And Autodesk, for a variety of reasons, does not have the Navisworks exporters installed in these cloud-based machines, and so we couldn't do one of the most popular tasks, which was Revit to Navisworks or AutoCAD to Navisworks. So, and there are a variety of other things where we were trying to leverage outside applications, and we couldn't really do that in the cloud side of things. And then, honestly, from a business perspective, the difference fundamentally with Clarity Cloud is that the pricing is usage-based. If you don't use it at all, it costs you, not a lot. But if you use it, it is like a per hour charge for doing that work in the cloud. You don't have to provide any any hardware, any software, so it still works out. But people have uncertainty around that usage-based pricing. And so, what are we doing about it? This is where it gets interesting and where we talk about our new Clarity Cloud hybrid option, which is available now. The idea is that with Clarity Cloud, we will still have all the same kinds of capabilities of running tasks over in the APS Forge design automation servers, but you will also be able to take Clarity on-premise task servers and connect those up to your Clarity Cloud. And so with that kind of capability and the ability to choose whether tasks get sent to an on-premise machine or whether they get processed in the cloud, lots of flexibility around that. But adding that ability to do the on-premise task servers, these machines give you the ability to control what's the spec on the machine, how much RAM does it have, what's CPU, what are you paying for them, and you ultimately control them. So it's really giving you a lot more control over both the specs, but also the cost and the spend for doing the task automation. So we'll still take care of all the centralized management of projects and tasks and those kinds of things, but yeah, you'll have options that you can do the tasks that you couldn't do otherwise using the on-premise Clarity task servers, whether that's one or whether that's a lot of task servers. It's your choice. So does this get us closer to feature parity between Clarity Cloud and Clarity on-premise? Closer. We're not quite there yet. We've got 71 tasks in total around Clarity on-premise. We've got 16 tasks available in the cloud. We've got 50, those are overlapping, those 50 and 16, that are available when you're talking about running on-prem tasks in a hybrid cloud environment. So, and the other tasks that we have, we do think that we'll get to them at some point. The bigger area for us is sort of the delivery options, what we call post-task actions inside of Clarity on-premise. That's sort of, I want to deliver files into ProjectWise when I'm done, or over into Procore, those kinds of things. So at the moment, we've only got one delivery option, which is delivering things right back into BIM 360, like the PDFs that you create or the Navisworks files that you create. We do expect to have a few more just in the next month or so. But yeah, ultimately, Clarity on-premise has task automation, has model health. It also has a lot of tasks related to data export and business intelligence, and those kinds of things. We don't have the data and business intelligence side really addressed at this point in Clarity Cloud. So that's really the difference. But we really feel like with this hybrid option, we've gone very close to to getting to what most people would consider parity. So here we are inside the Clarity Cloud product. If you've seen the Clarity on-premise product before, it's going to look familiar. We have the list of projects. You can add new projects and just connect them up to your BIM 360 projects. If I drill into one of them for a moment, you can see it knows what your files are and folders, it knows about your tasks, it keeps track of model metrics and model health, those kinds of things. But what I want to go through first for a moment is the hybrid options. So that's up here in our tenant settings. This is our tenant that we're connected to inside of Clarity Cloud. And so in the tenant, we connect our on-premise Clarity with a set of API keys, which are here. And you can see that we've registered a few different task servers that are connected up. And just like inside of the on-premise product, we can click on them and we can see what is this one capable of doing, what's the basic information about it, that kind of thing. So we see the task servers that are connected and registered, and then we also see inside this task processing section what the rules are for at the company level for how do you want to divide the tasks between your on-premise capabilities and your cloud capabilities. So you can say we are a cloud-only company, we can say we're an on-premise only company, we can say we're a mixed kind of company, and then for all of the tasks, you can see a lot of them are available in both cloud and on-premise, and you can pick and choose. In this case, we've got it set so that the on-premise does all of the exporting, the cloud does a variety of model metrics tasks. It also does a couple of things that are cloud specific. And you can see these other tasks, which are really just on-premise tasks only, things like running the model checker or doing a BIM 360 migrate between hubs and projects, running a Dynamo script. All of those kinds of things are possible, but only on the on-premise version. So this is where you set how you'd like the processing to happen as a company rule. But then back, if I go back into my project, you can see that if you have the right role within the system, which is a project coordinator level or higher, then you do have the ability to change the settings. By default, you're inheriting the settings from the tenant, but you can make a change for a specific project and say, this project is cloud only, or this project is mixed, and some other grouping, as well as you have the ability to adjust on a project-by-project basis if a particular project is going to use particular task servers or use task servers that are assigned in this office, or any of the on-premise task servers that are available. So you have those options to be able to control things. Now, switching over to the task definitions that we have, you can see that we've got these tasks that are already set up in the project. And on this page, when we go to add, you can see what we've currently got configured for where these tasks are going to run. There's a little icon next to it that says this executes in the hybrid mode on an on-premise task server, whereas this one executes on the cloud. So you can see where they're targeted at one place, the other place, or both. But as I go in, and I'll pick Revit to DWG as an example. So we have a similar kind of setup. Again, it'll look similar to those who have the Clarity on-premise product, but the upper section is kind of general, and the lower section is specific to this kind of task, like DWG export. So, for example, we could start typing and say which set of sheets do we want to print here? Print the DD set. How do you want to name things? How are they named? All of the different options for a DWG. And then in the upper part, this is where we decide to target the different files. So you can see these are all the files that Clarity has identified in the project that are Revit files in this case, because it's a Revit-based task. And so we can pick and choose which ones we are going to go in and run against. So we'll perhaps just run on these two. From a scheduling perspective, we have the option for just launch on demand, or a scheduled kind of situation where we'd say maybe during the week, wake up at 2 a.m. and make me a new set of AutoCAD files, maybe only if the model's changed since the last version that we had. So various different options for how this is going to run. And we can create the task. Once we've created it, it's launchable, it's schedulable. To launch it from right here, we can just click Run. It's started 2 tasks. So you can see the tasks got created. They're sitting here in the queue for this project. And in the back room, some of our on-premise task servers that monitor this queue are going to see that entry in the queue, going to start up the right version of Revit, and start claiming and working on these tasks. So you can see our logs are streaming into this page so that we can see what's going on throughout the process. This will take us through claiming the progress of the task and ultimately to the delivery stage where we put the output files back into BIM 360. I'm going to flip back to both pricing as well as other questions. So how does the regular Clarity Cloud and the hybrid option work? So Clarity Cloud's list pricing is $50 per project per month, just to have your project on Clarity Cloud. With volume, that goes down. Let's see, and then for the cloud-based task processing, it's $8 for every CPU hour of tasks performed. So if it takes, if it takes 20 minutes to do something, I just picked a bad number. I don't know what 8 divided by 3 is off the top of my head, but yeah, ultimately you get a bill at the end of the month with your pricing of how many projects that you had active during the month and the task processing hours that were spent. So that's the traditional Clarity Cloud. With the hybrid option, if you're not using cloud task processing, all of the usage-based task processing goes away. You still have a price per project per month, but you purchase outright or with an annual subscription the Clarity task servers, or if you're an existing Clarity customer who's just interested in dipping your toe in the water here, you can connect your existing Clarity task servers up to a Clarity Cloud instance and try it out. So that's the pricing model. Talk to your IMAGINiT representative to find out more. Is there a trial? Yes, if you go to our imaginit.com/claritycloud site, you can basically sign up for a trial tenant. It is sort of geared at signing up for just the pure cloud version of it. Is it possible to do a trial with hybrid or on-prem task servers? Yes, we can talk to your IMAGINiT representative. If you're an existing Clarity on-premise customer, we'd probably just let you do it. If you haven't worked with Clarity before, we may try to talk you into a small services engagement to help you get it set up and configured and make sure that we know what's going on. And then, where can you find out more? It's all at imaginit.com/claritycloud. So with that, I will bring up questions.
Do you want to read them to yourself, or do you want me to read them to you?
Why don't you read them to me, Joe, if that's not a problem. Thank you.
Couple of things then. Yeah, so desktop connector 16.x is a comment that 16.x does not support VDI. I guess the first question of that is, have you noticed the same on our side of it crashing AutoCAD, Revit, or other types of vertical software? And related to that, how are we working through issues with the 16.x desktop connector with Clarity?
Yeah, so challenging situation, and yeah, it's still a bit of a mess. I mean, our goal with all this is just to make make this work as best as we can. We can't do anything about the the support for VDI. That's strongly in Autodesk's hands. In terms of what we can do is, and what we have been doing, specifically with Clarity 2024, and that's the version that you have to be on to connect up your Clarity on-premise task servers to the Clarity Cloud. Is trying to deal with the 40 project limit issue, because you might have more than 40 projects, or you might add projects, and you don't want to have to go around to every task server that you have and sort of add that selection or figure out which it's going to work on. That is something where you have to you have to manage that, and we're going to try to manage that for you in 2024. We have built it in so that before a task runs, it will check to see, is my project on your list of 40 selected projects? And if it's not, we use UI automation. So it's kind of like auto hotkey, where we're sort of working through trying to pick the right thing in the UI. It's not ideal. We've talked to Autodesk about having an API for it. They're non-committal at this point. So we're automating via UI automation, the auto selecting your project if it's not on the list, and if that bumps you up to 41, then we're tracking what projects have been used least recently and unchecking that 41st project. So long story short, we agree it's a challenging environment that we only have so much span of control over. And we're trying to do anything that we can within that span of control. We also, I think, recently had an issue with, these kind of UI automations are, a little bit sadly on the fragile side. So when 16.3 came out, we ran into some issues that we've actually just pushed an update for just today. So we're doing what we can, but it's definitely a challenging environment.
Cool. So the cloud version, I think you kind of alluded to it, but addressing it a little bit more directly. The question was, does the cloud version need a local database? And if so, where can you choose where the database goes? And the answer to that is, at least as of right now, the answer is no. But you want to provide some color to that, or?
Sure. The whole idea behind the cloud version is that we don't want anybody having to deal with local databases, because that's part of what made setting up and managing Clarity on-premise a little bit more effort. So yeah, the idea behind Clarity Cloud is that we do all of that for you in the cloud, and so you don't have to think about it. Yes, there's tenant-based databases in the background, but we're taking care of all that for you.
Cool. And I had answered this publicly through there, but just to reiterate through there, can you prevent users from changing the configuration of what runs in the cloud and what runs on premise?
Yes, it's all role-based. So you have to have a role of project coordinator or higher to be able to get at that page. So yeah, ultimately, regular users do not have access to that page. Only people at a project coordination level have access.
Cool. And with the exporting of files that we do, in the configuration for the setup of Clarity Cloud, you provide a pathing for a root folder of where do files get deposited, PDFs, whatever, as we're creating them. Are there any options to specify subfolders for those outputted files?
So at the moment, no. We realize that's a huge shortfall, and that's on our list to get settled in the next month or two. So I do expect that that'll get improved shortly.
Okay. On the pricing side, $50 per project per month. Is that created projects, active projects? If you have the projects but you never ran a task on it for the month, is it still considered a live project and they get an invoice for that $50?
So today, yes, it is created projects technically. We have been considering, because this does come up with our customers for Clarity Cloud, basically monthly. We are considering whether we would, we'd be willing to do it based on just projects where you have run a task. So we're evaluating changing it, but as of this moment, I can tell you, it's if the project exists, then you would get charged for it. It is prorated through the month, so it's if you started on the middle of the month, then it's $25 for the remainder of the month.
Okay. And I don't know that we've had any conversations specifically around volume pricing. Same thing, not yet, but.
And, it's one of these things where today it's being sort of negotiated on a deal by deal basis. I expect that we'll get to having a published volume pricing list, but at the moment it's sort of like tell us what you're thinking, and we'll see if we can do better on the pricing. Just work through your IMAGINiT representative.
Okay. And then a pair of questions I'm going to lump together for going back to questions about the database. Because as you'd said, the purpose of cloud is we don't want to have, you're not going to have to deal with the database and all the stuff that goes along with that. But the pair of questions we're saying, well, but can I get access to the database that's in the cloud for Power BI or things like we can do if it's an on-premise version? Or if we can't get access to it now, would we be able to get access to it in the future? And I think there's a couple of caveats to that answer that you might come back with. But.
Yeah, so I think there are a couple of different aspects to it. So we do expect to eventually be offering the kind of OData integration where you get a URL that gives you access via Power BI or Excel to your data. At this point, though, we are not doing any database export work. So it's not something where that exists right now. There's really effectively there's only sort of high level sort of basic information being stored about tasks and projects and a little bit of configuration assistance kind of data. So we're not storing the same level of project-based data today. But yeah, once we do get there, which is sort of on our near to medium term list, then the way that we will be exposing it is likely with the OData style of connector.
Okay. And do we have documented anywhere other than that somebody did a screen cap of the presentation as you were going along, but a list of the cloud-based tasks versus hybrid local tasks that are available?
I think we're putting that in now that hybrid, hybrids just came out this week, but I expect that we will have something, something available, for you. I'll go back if you want to take a screenshot. I'll flip back at the end of the session.
Okay. And then there's a question, and this is the last one. So if anybody else has questions through there, keep on typing them through or into the chat or wherever you want to get them. But asking, is Clarity Cloud an alternative to the whole Autodesk BIM 360 environment? And really the answer to that is no, it relies on BIM 360.
Correct. We don't do any model storage or anything like that. We're not a CDE ourselves. We are basically just pointing to BIM 360 and ACC and letting you automate tasks, print, export, whatever task that you'd like to automate. against something that's in BIM 360. So we don't store any data. Generally, we're just doing task automation and model health check, that kind of data.
Let somebody screenshot that difference.
I will show the list so people can see that. Yeah. So this page, the task service page, only available to people at a project coordinator level or higher. There's a couple lower levels where people can work with tasks or look at things without having access to this. So yeah. So I don't know what the best way is. Maybe actually it's adding I think that gets more on a page. So yeah, so that's our list right there. And although this is showing here, let's actually have to go in and say make us do both. All right, I think that would do it. And so if we add a task, so if you see a cloud next to it, it's available in cloud. If you see a little hard drive server next to it, it's available on-prem. But yeah, I think, and I guess maybe the point was, I don't know if the point was actually like what's in the on-premise version that's not here. Or if did you get a sense of the point, Joe?
Technical, the actual words written were list of tasks available in cloud. So okay. I think this is
hard.
This is the answer.
Okay. Yes, this is the list available.
The joy of typing.
So this is the list available that's in the cloud. We also do the sort of dynamic. If you've got Dynamo scripts or PyRevit scripts that are inside of a Clarity script folder, it'll also publish those as custom tasks. Right. Yeah, this is our list of all the tasks available. And I think what you'll find is this is everything that's in the on-premise product, with the exception of, as we mentioned, we don't have data export and we don't have some of the synchronization between different cloud platforms as of yet.
Okay. And I'm going to add to somebody's question that did get typed in here to flesh it out a little further. But the question was, will Clarity Cloud ever be able to access files on our local network as input for a task? The part that I'll add to that is the other side, though, because we've got the backup project task. That one can save files locally. Correct? Yes. So we have some access locally, but it's as a destination, not a source.
Correct. Yeah, and we've contemplated the like what would it take to be able to to use file-based projects or files on the network as inputs and that kind of thing. And we have some ideas. Right now when we look at our on-premise Clarity product, gosh, I mean, it seems like 80, based on our analytics, like 90 or 95% of all the projects being created are being created in BIM 360 and ACC right now. So, we don't know how much energy to invest in file-based projects, but in comparison to sort of solving the data problem or the deliverable problem. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so it is a source of interest to us, and if you've got strong interest, then talk to an IMAGINiT representative, set up a call with our group. We'd be interested to hear about it. But yeah, in terms of to Joe's point, I mean, if you're interested in doing just backup of your BIM 360 data down to on-premise, we've got a couple different tasks that'll do that kind of work. If you're interested in migration of data, moving files from BIM 360, BIM 360 Teams to BIM 360 Docs, or those kinds of things, we can do those kinds of tasks as well.
Okay. For security reasons, excuse me, where is Clarity Cloud hosted?
Yes, good question. So today we are in just one location, which is Microsoft Azure in the U.S. East region. So that's as much as I can say to it. We will, as we grow, we will contemplate more locations as well, more regions. But that's where we are today.
Cool. Are there any differences between cloud on-premise tasks or cloud or versus on-premise tasks, or is the task setup the same between the two?
It's virtually the same, I would say. I mean, the differences are small, if at all, and it's still a matter of the way that all of these things work is that they publish, the on-prem task server publishes publishes what the configuration is. So yeah, I would expect that other than the slight UI difference between what the file name builder works like, or what the there's slight nuance differences between the the autocomplete sort of drop down. You can see that these things are 95% the same. And from an execution perspective, there are a couple of things that have very slight differences, but really nothing meaningful.
Yeah, and there is zero difference between setup of a task. Let's say it's the Revit transmit, because that's the first one my eyes came to. If you set it up to be able to run cloud versus local, it's the same task. It's just where it's running.
Yep. Yeah, all the same options. Just it'll just decide where it's running.
And related to those same tasks, this goes back to your earlier part of the presentation, I think, or we can reflect back to that, of the horsepower of the computers in the cloud running things. There's a question, is there a project size limit? If you've got 40, 50 models linked together, total project size is a gig.
Yeah, so I mean, total project size is a gig. My rough math would say that total project size as a gig is something that would open with the cloud-based task servers. I generally feel like the guidance that we've heard from Autodesk is that it's 20 times the size on disk. So that would say that 20 gigabytes, 20 or 1 gigabyte size on disk means 20 gigabytes in the of RAM necessary. So I mean, I would generally say that total project size with cross-linking, being 1.3, 1.4, 1.5 gig is the place where I'd start getting very worried.
But I would say that there's a concern, at least in my head. Tell me if you feel differently. But if we were running a task on the cloud that was a total project size of a gig, while it may open, there may be it may not perform well once open. So if we take it and go to hybrid, then you can spec up your local task machine to wherever it needs to be and get some likely better performance. Or am I overthinking it? Okay.
No, I think that's fair. I mean, for example, the inside of the cloud processing of tasks, there is not really caching of your BIM 360 models, for example, because I mean, maybe you don't need it quite as much because you're in the same building as Autodesk, but there will not be caching. Whereas when you run these tasks on your own task server, you're going to have the caching, and you're going to have the same kind of open performance as you do as a user with a workstation.
Okay. And back to what is currently the last question in the queue again. Going back to database. So nope, then somebody added another. So if we're not doing a classic Clarity database export task, how does the user see Revit parameters to help set up a task in the cloud?
Yes. So we basically just made it a fundamental part of every sort of Clarity task session. So every time a model gets processed, we are going to extract 3 or 4, at the end of the process, we are going to extract 3 or 4 different kinds. Well, I think now we're at probably 6 or 7 different kinds of things. The kinds of things that we used to extract as part of our minimal extract. Sheets, sheet sets, parameter names, it's work sets. I don't know. It's about 6 or 7 things that we just always extract every time we process a model. So the first model, the first time you configure a task and run it, you won't have access to it. But after any task has run, you will have an updated set of the basic information necessary for configuration. Or not even necessary, it's helpful for configuration.
Sure. And does Clarity Cloud have an API?
Not
specifically
not
here
yet.
for, okay.
Yeah, not yet, but we do expect to offer it.
Okay. The specific request here would be for an API to create a Clarity Cloud project based off of their internal project database.
Yeah, and we have that on the on-premise side, and we do know that people are wanting that. So yeah, that's on our near to medium term kind of list. All right. Well, thank you everybody for your time, and please feel free to reach out if you got questions. Here's my contact info. I also encourage you to engage with your local IMAGINiT representative. They can coordinate meetings or those kinds of things to try to have deeper discussions if you're interested in it. So, but yeah, we're excited that you came out, and we're really feeling like this hybrid option is a nice in between kind of approach, so that you have some of the best the best parts of the Clarity on-premise edition, with also some of the niceness of not having to manage quite as much hardware and software as with the Clarity Cloud edition. So.